Well, it's time to finish this thing up, I think. I got pretty much everything done, except for, a few little details here and there. The big thing right now is I need to get the ORIs aired up. So I've got my nitrogen tank out and ready to go. So obviously I've got the tires mounted up on it so I can set it down and see how it's looking, get my ride height dialed in. So I already went and aired up the lower chamber. So this down here, which is what actually kind of sucks this shaft back up in, helps to keep things a little more stable. So I've got about 90 pounds in all of those. So now I'm going to start to air up the upper chamber, which is a little different on these because I've got these reservoirs. So instead of those getting aired up here, that fitting is down here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the 90 pounds I've already got the regulator set to, and I'll go around and get that in all 4 of them and start setting it down and see if it's going to start holding itself up. So to get nitrogen into those ORIs, we use this. This is a fitting that they supply in their old single fill kit. It's got this zero loss fitting that actually screws onto the Schrader valve on the strut, and then you can air it up, see what pressure you're at, and then when you're done, this just unscrews and then comes off of the valve so you don't lose any of your pressure. Such a small volume in there that it doesn't take much to have pretty significant effect on the pressure you have in there. And unfortunately, with the position of the Schrader valve on these pointing straight down, it makes it a little difficult because my gauge is also pointing straight down, but I'll figure it out. All right, so we got that screwed on there. We'll screw in the pin that pushes on the valve, and then I've got our nitrogen preset to 90 pounds, so we'll push that in there. Okay, hear it doing its thing. All right, looks like it's filled up, so now I can undo this, and now it'll hold that pressure in there. All right, well, I've got all 4 of them aired up to 90 pounds, which I said that's not going to be enough, I'm pretty sure, to hold them to the ride height I want, but I'm going to start lowering the lift down and see where we end up. So here's where we ended up sitting with a 90-pound initial charge. So I've got about, looks like maybe 3 inches of compression. I'm shooting for about 7 there. So coming around to the rear, see I've got a little bit more showing in the rear because obviously the rear weighs a little less. So I think I'm going to go up. We'll do, say, 110 pounds and see where that gets us, and I'll just start walking it up to get it to where I want to be. Of course, if it actually sat at this ride height, that wouldn't be too bad either. That's kind of nice and low, but need a little bit more compression travel than that, so I'm going to keep airing them up. So here's what we're looking like at 110 pounds. See, I got, looks like another inch and a half of shaft showing there. And then come around to the rear and about the same thing. So I think I'm just going to keep stepping it up like that until this thing gets up to the actual ride height that I want. So I just keep playing with it. And this is what I've settled on now for ride height. It's actually a little lower than what I was initially shooting for. I got about 6 inches of shaft showing all the way around, so it's about an inch or so lower than what I was originally targeting, but I think this is going to work out pretty good. That should be plenty of compression travel. I did wind up having to put about 10 pounds more in the driver front and than the passenger front, and about 5 pounds more in the driver rear than passenger. I think just the differences in weight from side to side had to be compensated for a little bit, but not too bad. It was about, my initial charge in the front I think was like 150 and 160, and the rear was like 120 and 125, something like that. But it's looking pretty good, sitting at a nice height, so I think that's going to work out well. So now I just need to get a few more little details buttoned up and we can see about an actual test drive. One of the details I need to get taken care of is I need to get this air manifold mounted. There used to be mounts coming off of this hoop here that it bolted down to, but those had to come off to get those shock mounts in place. So I think what I'm going to do is make a plate that'll sit in here that this will bolt down onto and get it nice and secure. Of course, I'll do something with that wiring too. That's definitely not permanent, although some people might run that forever. But we'll get that all sorted out. Not sure what the dogs are getting into, but we'll figure that out too. All right, so this is the little plate I made just out of some 12 gauge. Should be plenty strong enough to hold this thing up. So now we'll get that to where it sits down kind of like that and get that piece tacked on there. I'll probably make something that'll go off of this end down probably onto here to kind of brace that up. Probably doesn't really need it, but make me feel better about it anyway. So that's pretty much it. Pretty simple little bracket, brace on there to keep things from wobbling around too much. So I'm going to go ahead and just weld that up, get everything bolted together, and we're going to call this one done. And here it is, all bolted down, wired, ready to go. So that's one more thing I can check off the list. One of the other things that I had to get done was my vent lines for the axles. You can see I've got this run up, coming off the original vent onto the link, and then that goes up, and see it runs up into the frame, and then it'll go up into the engine compartment. And on the front one, I've got coming off here and just attached onto my hydraulic lines, and then same thing, it goes up and into the engine compartment. So now I can let this back down and get the top side of those tied up. Right now, this is what I'm going to do with the breather lines. I've got the rear one kind of coming up and over here, and the front one coming from there and over here. Just got them tied together. Just kind of, they'll do their job this way and kind of be out of the way. Eventually I'll come up with something that I can run them up into, like a catch can or something, but for now this is good enough. So get me running and driving anyway. This is really about the last of the little stuff I got to get done, except for an air filter. I should probably put one of those on, but minor stuff. So just about ready to pull it out of the shop. Well, apart from a few little insignificant details, this thing is ready to go. So I think it's time to fire it up, pull it out of the shop, and give it a test drive. See what happens.
little blip. This is so much fun. A lot less stressful just standing here.
Well,
All right, dip is clear. All right, now go right or left. All right.